Hi, in today's practice, we are going to unwind that neck and shoulder tension you've been carrying around. Hi, my name's Mariah. Welcome to Wealthy Boss. Every week I bring you free yoga, barre, and Pilates videos. So if you like yoga, barre, and Pilates, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Today we're going to find some really delicious poses to release all that tension you've been carrying around, whether that's from maybe poor posture and biomechanics, or from stress and emotional tension, or maybe a combination thereof. We are going to use a mat, either a yoga strap or just a long towel, belt, jump rope, anything that is going to allow you to take your hands a little bit wider than the shoulders. And then if you have a couple of blocks, there's one pose that we may want to use them, but if you don't have any blocks, don't worry about it. So let's get to feeling better. We'll take a moment coming seated onto our mat to start to become aware of the tension in our shoulders, our neck, our jaw. So much of the tension we carry in this area comes from our emotions. Feeling like we have the weight of the world literally on our shoulders. So closing the eyes. Taking a moment to give the shoulders, the neck, the jaw permission to release the burdens. Feeling like you can take a big breath without these burdens on your shoulders, even if just for a few moments. I want you to imagine any type of emotional or stressful situation that might be contributing to this tension. I want you to picture it as a big vest. I like to think of it as one of those vests you wear at the dentist that's weighted. You go to get your x-rays. Imagine this big, heavy, weighted vest placed on top of your shoulders. Let this represent the stresses you've been experiencing, conscious or maybe even subconscious, the things that you put pressure on yourself to do, the people you're worried about impressing, the number of things you want to get done in a day, and the decisions, oh, so many decisions that lie on you. Now I want you to picture yourself gently releasing as someone comes up to you and removes this vest from your shoulders, feeling that weight, that burden disappear. Keeping the eyes closed, starting to move the shoulders now in some little circles, maybe forward in one direction. And then backwards. Beginning to welcome in new life, new healing, new mobility through fresh delivery of blood and circulation to the tissues. Eyes closed, I'd like you to take your fist to the right side of your face, and you can open your eyes just for a moment to watch me. You're just gently separating the upper jaw from the lower jaw and finding those knuckles palm space forward, pressing firmly into the right side of your face. Close those eyes again, feeling yourself almost like massaging or pressing into that tight tissue for 2 deep breaths. Maybe taking your inhales and exhales through your nose. And at the bottom of your next exhale, taking that over to the other side. So I'm going to separate the top of the jaw from the bottom of the jaw, pressing into that muscular area where your jaws, upper and lower jaw meet. And one more deep breath here, really pressing into that tight, tense tissue. Allowing your eyes to open at the bottom of the exhale as you remove your hands down to the sides of your hips. Maybe taking a moment just to see if that already released a little bit of tension from the jaw. From here, taking the right hand down, left hand comes up as you take a little side stretch. And then as you come back up, I want you to keep that hand out to the side. Almost forming a little stop sign with the hand. Opposite hand comes behind you, kind of using it as a little prop to prop yourself up, and then start to tilt your head away from that elevated arm. You're thinking more about pulling the temple, the top of the temple, up towards the ceiling, as opposed to crunching the ear towards the neck. Now, if this feels really uncomfortable to have your fingertips lifting up, you can have them extended long. You could also do this against the side of a wall for even more intensity if you wanted to do this standing, or just position yourself over against a wall. We're going to spend some time here allowing gravity to help to lengthen and undo any tension or tautness along the side of the neck. Breathing into it as you're able. This can be an intense sensation, so recognizing that, honoring that, but allowing yourself to feel just a touch of discomfort, never a forced pain, but just a touch of discomfort of knowing that your body is kind of shedding old habits, old defense mechanisms. See if you can continue to keep a little bit of space between the upper and lower jaw. And then from here, keeping the hand extended out if that feels okay, you're going to drop the chin more towards the collarbone, so you feel the crown of your head pulling a little bit forward into a diagonal. As you tuck that chin in, so you should be feeling a little bit more of a stretch along the back portion of the neck. Opposite side. Again, remembering to breathe deeply, maybe finding your ujjayi breath in and out through the nose. Now, instead of dipping that chin down, let's start to lift the chin up and towards the top corner of the ceiling. So you feel the head tilting back slightly until you feel a nice kind of tugging sensation along the front of the opposite side of the neck. Many of us carry so much tension here along the sternocleidomastoid area. It's a huge muscle. It can tense up when we're feeling stress. You might feel a little bit of almost tingling here. That's okay. That's just evidence that your body is transforming and releasing some of that tension. Feeling those nice big breaths, especially as you fill up those lungs to the kind of maximum point, you'll feel the biggest stretch possible. And then gently returning ear above the shoulder cap. This is an intense stretch, so I'd like you to actually take that bottom hand, the one that's wrapped around behind your back, take your pointer finger and your middle fingers to your temple and use them to help lift the weight of the head back up to neutral. Be very careful and slow about this, because that was a very intense stretch. And then we'll start by taking it to a side, to stretch on the other side. As we return to upright, reaching that arm out to about shoulder height, maybe fingertips lift up like we're making a little stop signal with our hands. Opposite hand behind us as we take ear towards shoulder on the other side. Noticing maybe any differences from one side to the other. Maybe your biomechanics have you a little bit lopsided, whether that's from how you hold your phone or what side you sleep on. If you're a side sleeper. Continuing to soothe with your breath. The deeper we breathe, the more we will elongate into the stretch. And then let that chin kind of dip forward or tuck towards the collarbone, just allowing the feel of gravity. So you're not forcing through neck muscles, you're simply allowing, which is also a metaphor we can continue to keep in our mind's eye when it comes to tension and stress. How much can we allow rather than force? Starting to lift that chin up towards the opposite corner ceiling of the room. Going soft in the jaw, so notice if you've reclenched that jaw, relaxing that if possible. Deep breaths here, noticing the sensation that the fullest point of your breath creates along the front of the side neck. Returning ear to shoulder. And no rush. Now the bottom pointer finger and middle finger find the bottom temple, gently lifting, and the head allows itself to be lifted in that spirit of passivity and receiving. Hopefully you're feeling a little bit more open already, but we have really lovely things just to look forward to. So we're going to take hold of that strap or towel or anything, jump rope, belt, anything that's kind of more than a few feet long. Great. And holding it just loosely, we are relaxed with the grip, just a very gentle tension between those hands. Taking several breaths as we begin to lift the strap overhead. Now you'll notice the higher that you lift that strap, and we're going to take our time to get there. Let's try to not make this a race. The higher that we lift that strap, the more you're probably feeling in the chest and shoulders, which means it's okay to take the hands a little bit wider whenever we need to. And then, of course, noticing the higher that we take that strap, the more the shoulders want to kind of cozy up to those ears. But that's a little counterproductive, so we'd rather have maybe even a slight bend in the elbows or maybe a slightly wider grip than to have those shoulders pulling up around the ears. Make those adjustments as we need, and we're going to actually continue allowing that strap to go behind us now. So we stretch into the chest. So often when we notice tension or tightness in the neck and shoulders, a lot of it can actually originate from tight chest muscles, being closed over, computer or device all day or steering wheel. It may not be where we notice the feeling or the sensation, but it could be the culprit helping relieve some of it. So again, if this is feeling too tight on the shoulders or like you're hyperextending the elbows, soft bend in the elbows, go a little wider, as wide as you need on that strap, but not so wide that you stop to feel any sensation here. You do want to make this therapeutic. Noticing what's going on, what transactions are occurring in the body. And then we're going to take about 3 breaths to return that strap overhead and eventually in front of our chest. one more time, we're going to return that strap above the head, so just straight up to the ceiling at whatever distance, so you can readjust the width of those hands if necessary, whatever place feels good here. And then taking it into a little bit of a lat pull, we're going to draw the whole shape over towards the right. Again, noticing if the left hand shoulder snuck up around that ear. Let's try to edge it down, even if that means we don't pull quite as low with that right hand. The breath is such an important tool here. The deeper that we breathe, the more we're kind of expanding into the fibers of those muscles. And of course, we're relaxing our nervous system as well, which is going to help shed some of that tension also. And it's time to take it over to the other side. Back up. It's time to let go of that strap. And if, by the way, if you're feeling like the legs are a little achy, it's a good idea to go ahead and switch. If you're in a cross-legged position, go ahead and switch to the other side. From here, we're going to interlace the arms overhead. Again, being aware of where the shoulders are in space. Let's try to watch our posture. We can bend into the elbows if we need to help send those shoulders down. We're going to stay here, kind of settle into this posture. So many times we kind of rush through the stretches, so we never arrive at the full benefit of them, because the full benefit is not to be found within the first 10 or 15 seconds of a stretch. It's typically going to be a little bit after that point. So again, tingling is totally normal here. Just evidence of how tight you are and how much transformation is happening in the body. If it scares you, you can always ease off a little bit, bend the elbows a little more, take a break. And then from here, bend the elbows. We're going to press the hands into the head. I'm sorry, the head into the hands. And elbows come a little bit wider to release more deeply into the chest. Really lifting that heart a little bit higher, a little bit more open. And then relaxing those arms down by the side. You might feel a lot going on here as the blood rushes back into the fingertips. That's all good. It just means we're getting rid of some of that tension. We're going to make our way to an all fours position, so coming onto hands and knees. On the inhale, we're going to send the right fingertips up to the sky, and then exhale, threading our needle, taking the shoulder down to the ground if it's available. You might find a pillow or blanket or block might serve as a needed prop, maybe under the head or underneath the shoulder, if that ground feels a little far away. And then that left hand really presses down into the ground. I like to have my elbows spinning up towards the ceiling, so it's in this 90-degree angle. That way when I press down into the ground, I have kind of maximum leverage, so I feel a little bit more of a pull. Not only in the backs of the shoulders here, but I'm getting a little bonus rotation in that low back, which is nice too. Good, pressing back up to all fours. We're going to take that to the other side. So left fingertips lift in the inhale. Exhale, threading it through. Sending the tailbone kind of more evenly centered between those two hips. Spin the right elbow up so that it's stacked right on top of the wrist, pressing down into the earth, getting a little deeper of a rotation, deeper stretch here. Feeling this along the upper back. Back up to all fours. We're moving into a variation of a downward dog. So we'll just start by coming into just simple downward dog, tucking toes, lifting hips up to the sky. If you're feeling tight in your hamstrings, maybe walk or pedal this out just a little bit so we can settle into this shape. Now this is honestly one of my favorite yoga poses for a tight kind of tightness in the shoulders and neck, but it can take a little bit to kind of find. So you might want to experiment with this one a little bit until you kind of get the right amount of resistance into it. I'm going to take my right forearm down onto the ground so that I feel a lot more of the weight centered into the left shoulder. I find that when I do that, if I'm really actively pressing with the left arm, that I'm actually going to feel a lengthening kind of along the trapezius muscles, which can feel so, so good. It almost feels like you're just kind of tacking one end of the muscle down and elongating it, and really that's what you're doing by utilizing a little bit of the gravitation of body weight here to lengthen into that muscle. So again, you can kind of just experiment with more or less weight in the forearm of the right arm versus the left arm. You do want to make sure you're really pressing the ground away with that left hand so that you don't cave in with that left shoulder. Deep, deep breaths here. Take all the time you need. And I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the other side, but if this is doing amazing things for you, you're always welcome to stay longer in any of these poses, and you can just, skip the next one or join us when you're ready. So that hand, if it's pressing into the ground, is really, really pressing so we can kind of elongate the whole entire chain away from that hand. Breaths here if you're going to continue on to the next pose with me, or again, you're welcome to stay here. And then making our way all the way onto the ground. So kind of come onto my knees, positioning myself so that my chest is on the mat. My legs are long, and then again, this one is going to take a little bit of experimentation, but I love this one for kind of just rinsing out or squeezing out the kind of the circulation. It almost feels like in those muscles, it feels like someone's just kind of wringing them out, which can feel really nice. So borrowing this from Pilates, we're going to set up as though we were going to take a swan pose, if you know that. Elbows come a little bit wider and a little bit further forward of the shoulders. We're going to allow the chest to come all the way down. We want the forearms to stay on the ground. So just experiment here. The closer back and the narrower you have your shoulders, the more you're going to kind of feel this stretch, but you don't want them to be so close that you have discomfort getting your chest on the ground. You do want to be able to allow the chest to come onto the ground. And from here, we're just pulling the shoulder blades together. So we're squeezing the shoulder blades, allowing just kind of the prop, almost like the tent pole positioning of those upper arms to serve to kind of almost wring out or kind of hang those muscles off of them. I just picture like tent poles, and we're kind of stretching out the fabric between those tent poles, if that makes sense. So again, experimenting with the positioning of the elbows, how far forward, how narrow or wide they are in relationship to your shoulders and the mat, to find a little more or a little less. We're just keeping that chest on the ground, squeezing those shoulder blades together. Perfect. And then taking those elbows just a little bit wider, we're going to come into our bow pose, which is a great back bend and great for stretching the quads. Today we're using it for the purpose of kind of stretching out the fronts of the shoulders, so reaching around only if it's available. If it's not, please skip it. We don't want to compress your back. Holding up the backs of the feet, kicking the hands into those kicking the feet into the hands, really lifting in the heart. very gently releasing hold of those feet. We're going to find a counter pose here with our child's pose. And then we're going to press the elbows firmly into the mat in front of us. Take our hands together so palms touch, and then start to work the shape of the prayer hands back towards your head. This can be really intense, kind of right under the arm area, kind of armpit, infraspinatus area, a little bit into the chest as well. If you want more, most people, this is already going to be enough of a challenge to try to take the hands anywhere close to the crown of the head. But if you were craving a little more and it felt safe to your shoulders to do that, you could take a block on its lowest setting under each elbow. So I turn them at kind of a little bit of an angle here so that I can just let my elbows fall naturally where they would if I were to be on the ground. And then they can be propped up for a little bit extra. But again, if this causes any feeling of kind of torquing or discomfort in the shoulders beyond just the feeling of stretch, then we want to just have the elbows on the ground. The more firmly you press your palms into each other, the more of a stretch you're going to feel. From here, if those elbows are on blocks, we're going to kind of slide them off. We're going to slide our chest forward, but keep a bend in the knees for puppy pose. So we allow the bum to kind of come off of the heels. So it's like we were going to come into all fours, only we had kept our chest on the ground. So the tailbone is lifting up to the ceiling. So this is a great release for your low back, but it's also good for stretching out the chest, releasing those shoulders. Again, if the ground is too far away from you, maybe you find a towel rolled up under your forehead or block. Not so high, though, that you would be putting a little kink in your neck. So just find something that works for you. If this doesn't work for you, feel free to remain in that child's pose a little bit longer. So the last pose we'll do facing our mat, and then we'll come onto our backs. And then starting to lift yourself up onto your hands. We're going to slide around so that we can come onto our back. Moving into our fish pose. And again, anytime this doesn't feel nice for you, if you have maybe a neck condition that this may not be nice for, then of course skip it. You always want to honor your body. But if you just have kind of generalized tension in the neck and shoulders, this one can feel really nice for opening up that throat. So our Madhyasana, our fish pose, elbows come underneath us, palms are almost touching, or maybe they are facing down, so you feel the mats underneath the palms of the hands, or the mat, pardon me, underneath the palms, plural. The elbows press into the ground, and you use that to push the chest up away from the ground, so it's like you're lifting your heart up to the ceiling, allowing that chin to lift and the forehead to kind of roll back. Now we want to be very careful about this pose. It's the crown of the head just very lightly dusting the mat. We don't want it compressing or pushing into the mat, but we also don't want it hanging out in space. And again, if it doesn't feel nice, skip it. I love fish pose. It always feels good to me to kind of open up in the throat area. I always think about the throat chakra. It always feels really yummy to me. Continuing those deep breaths if possible. It may feel a little constricted here, but remembering to continue breathing. And then very carefully sliding those hands out so arms come by the side. Just returning your head to neutral. If it feels nice, you could roll up a little towel just right underneath that kind of curved area of your neck. Otherwise, I'm just going to stay here, or maybe even just a blanket under as a pillow if that feels nice. Whatever feels most supportive to the neck. Coming into my Shavasana now, taking a moment to maybe just shake the head yes and no. lengthening the back of the neck, observing how it feels now that we've just devoted about a half an hour to releasing and undoing the tension that's accumulated in those areas, whether it's through stress or maybe just through posture or maybe a combination. A lot of these things are really kind of cyclical. So our biomechanics will reflect our internal state of being, but our internal state of being can also be exacerbated by the postures that we take throughout, just the daily habits of life. So we want to create a virtuous cycle of finding poses that make us feel centered and balanced and strong and confident, and in cultivating the habits and the choices and behaviors that will further those feelings. Allowing the eyes to close, bringing your awareness to your neck and shoulders, your chest, jaw, softening and releasing. Allowing yourself to just simply be suspended here in this state of receiving. Breath naturally rises and falls as it wants to without instruction. Starting to deepen your inhales and your exhales. Keeping those behind you, stretching toe tip to fingertip. Your next exhale, find you rolling over to one side and gently pressing yourself up into a seated position. Oh, my wish for you is that you feel both physically and emotionally a little bit lighter, a little bit more free. Namaste. I so hope you feel a little bit better now. If you do, would you give this video a little thumbs up? That really helps me be able to connect with more people here online. And this practice is brought to you today by my free audio affirmations for your fitness intentions. This is an audio download that's completely free of charge. It's all about cultivating a mindset of body positivity so that you can power up your fitness intentions and your self-care practices through a lens of love.
This meditation is brought to you by my free audio affirmations for fitness intentions. Check it out at wealthyboss.com/audio.